the establishment of an independent Palestinian state and that only Jewish people have the right to jurisdiction, self-determination in the land between the river and the sea. This is unlawful. As a preemptory norm, no people's right to self-determination in their own territory can be subject to negotiation under international law. This is Canada's last chance for the only framework for a two-state solution. Where will this Liberal government stand today on Palestinian statehood?
The Honourable Member for Abitibi James Nanavikiu. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer our most sincere support to the Ottawa Sri Lankan community, which was hit hard on March the 6th. We offer our deepest condolences to the Sri Lankan community and all those who were affected by this horrifying situation, especially the families and friends of the victims. Mr. Speaker, it is truly heartbreaking to think about this father who's in the hospital and whose life has been completely upended by the terrible loss of his spouse and their 4 children. We hope that he will receive all the support that he needs to get through this inconceivably tragic situation. I hope that such a thing will never happen again. Let us try together to find ways to reduce violence, which leads only to misery, loss, and tears. Our heart stands with Barrhaven. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Stormont, Dundas, South Glengarry.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister, life has never been more expensive, and to make matters worse, the Prime Minister is going to play a cruel joke on Canadians on April 1st, hiking the carbon tax again, this time by 23%, as part of his plans with the NDP to quadruple the carbon tax on everyone. That's why 70% of Canadians in 7 premiers are demanding a stop to this latest tax hike. Even the provincial Liberals now in Ontario and New Brunswick are getting out against these never-ending tax hikes. After 8 years, Mr. Speaker, even Liberals now know that this Prime Minister is just not worth the cost. The only ones that don't seem to get it are the NDP Liberal coalition here in Ottawa. But meanwhile, it is getting worse as food banks are bracing for an extra 1 million visits to food banks this year. Our common sense plan is clear. Axe the tax for everyone, everywhere, for good. It's time the Prime Minister, the NDP, and the Liberals smartened up, spiked the hike, and axed the tax.
The Honourable Member from Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is with deep sadness that I rise today to pay tribute to a remarkable woman, politician, entrepreneur, and friend. Former MP Kim Rudd, who represented the riding of Northumberland, Peterborough South from 2015 to 2019, recently passed away after a long battle with cancer. Kim worked hard for her constituency and for Canadians. She served as a parliamentary secretary, chair of the Health Research Caucus, and on a number of committees. She was a strong supporter of women and of the mining industry and the nuclear industry, knowing that the resource sector was key to climate action. Kim was a fierce fighter in her battle with cancer and used her experience to advocate for new research in ovarian cancer and for women's health. But most importantly, Kim was a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, a loyal and beautiful friend who will be deeply missed. Her hard work and commitment lit the way for others and left this world a better place. Let's carry that torch for Kim in her fight for women and for all Canadians. Today, we send our deepest sympathies to her husband, Tom, her daughters, Allison and Stephanie, their partners, and her 4 grandchildren, and we thank Kim for her contributions to our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, he's not worth the cost. Common sense Conservatives are working to fix the budget, stop crime, and build homes, but the Prime Minister not only wants to impose a new 17 cents a litre tax on gas with the support of the NDP and the Bloc, he now wants to impose a decree to close the forestry sector in Quebec. Why does the Prime Minister want to step on Quebec's jurisdiction to kill jobs in the forestry sector?
Honorable Vice Premier Ministre.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, since 2013, Quebec has put in place its own process and for putting a price on carbon. The province is not under the federal regime. The Conservative leader continues to show to what extent he doesn't understand Quebecers by promising to demolish a system that Quebec decided to put in place itself over 10 years ago. It's the Conservative leader who does not respect provincial jurisdiction. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. Apparently, there was an interpretation error. The question was about the forestry sector, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister wants to close with a decree which violates Quebec's jurisdiction. Meanwhile, common sense Conservatives want to defend workers in the forestry sector. Meanwhile, in the Journal de Montréal, we read that these people are hungry. People have had to, the police have had to intervene twice in distributing food baskets. So why is the Prime Minister, with his tax and inflationary deficits, continuing to make people hungry? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are the ones who want to reduce all of the social supports that the federal government now offers to Quebecers. The only thing that the Conservatives understand how to do is cut, cut, cut. They want to cut support for those less fortunate, but we will be there and we will not let the Conservatives cut this necessary aid.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
While common sense Conservatives are fighting to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime, this Prime Minister is promising a cruel April Fool's Day joke, a 23% carbon tax hike on food, gas, and groceries. This at a time when the Prime Minister has forced 50 families at CFB in Gagetown, military families, to go to food banks. 2 million Canadians every month going to those same food banks, 8,000 as part of a Facebook group where they share tips on eating out of dumpsters. Will the Prime Minister gain some compassion and some common sense and spike the hike?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives when it comes to supporting the least vulnerable in our country. This is the party that wants to cut the Canada Child benefit. This is the party that wants to cut support to our seniors. This is the party that wants to cut early learning and child care, which supports so many families. They're opposed to dental care. They're opposed to pharmacare, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Fear and falsehoods to distract from the fact that after 8 years of this Prime Minister, he's not worth the cost, and neither is his carbon tax, which will cost the average Ontario family this coming year $1,674. $1,674 for a middle-class family that's lined up at a food bank, not able to feed themselves or pay their heating bill. Will the Prime Minister give his head a shake, cancel his cruel April Fool's Day joke, and spike the hike?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, no one here is surprised to hear the Conservative leader talk about fear and falsehoods, because that is what he traffics in every single day. It's his area of personal expertise. Now, what he is proposing is, at least he is consistent. He wants to cut the support that Canadians get, and he wants to cut the support Canadian families are getting from the price on pollution. That's $1,800 Alberta families won't get. That's $1,120 Ontario families won't get. Cut. All they know how to do.
Excellent.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
So she just brags that Alberta families will get $1,800, but according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the carbon tax will cost Alberta families $2,943.
Amazing.
So the Prime Minister takes away $2,943 and gives back $1,800. Mr. Speaker, it's almost like he's a bank robber who thinks that he's virtuous because he tips the teller on the way out the door. Why won't he spike the hike?
The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader should know a lot about living off the public purse. That's all he has done his entire life. Now, when it comes to the price on pollution, this is entirely revenue neutral. The government does not keep a penny. It returns more money to 8 out of 10 Canadian families. That's a good deal for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. This Prime Minister... sorry, I'll interrupt the member from La Prairie, but his microphone wasn't on, so I will ask the Honourable Member from La Prairie to restart from the beginning, please. On Friday, the Premier of Quebec met with this Prime Minister to ask for full power for Quebec when it comes to immigration. And this Prime Minister said, no, but that's not all. Did the Prime Minister commit to adjusting immigration levels to meet the ability to welcome people? No. Did he commit to doing his fair part to helping with asylum seekers? No. Did he commit to accelerating the processing of requests and the granting of work permits? No. All day he said, no, 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 no. If he doesn't want to deal with immigration, why is he preventing Quebec from doing it? The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no country in the world, no federal state in the world which would give all immigration powers to a federated state. We have a major agreement with Quebec that's in place, the Canada-Quebec Agreement, which gives a great deal of power to Quebec. There's responsibility on both sides, Canada and Quebec. We will continue our great relationship with Quebec and continue to work, particularly on the temporary workers file. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Nobody has ever taught this Prime Minister that he could say yes, that he could be a partner, that he has the responsibility to bring solutions and compromises to meetings on immigration. And yet, there's no additional power for Quebec, no money for asylum seekers, no help with welcoming, no accelerating work permits or processing of requests. Not even any thoughts, any ideas on the ability to welcome people. And, you know, the Prime Minister said that he found his job difficult and maybe boring on the weekend. Is that why he's not doing it? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. I wonder what $5.2 billion means for the member across the way. Since 2015, our government, under the Canada-Quebec Agreement, has contributed that. It's a good relationship we have. There was a good meeting on Friday. The member across the way refuses to admit it. There's work that we can continue to do with both governments, and we will continue to do that.
From Burnaby South.
The people of Gaza are facing unspeakable violence. Thousands of children have been killed, and vital supplies like food, medicine, and water are scarce. Today, the NDP is calling on the government to do everything in its power to stop the violence and release the hostages. Will the Prime Minister vote today for peace?
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with my honourable colleague. The violence must stop. Hostages must be released. Humanitarian aid must go into Gaza. We need to make sure that Israeli and Palestinian civilians are protected. And that is the position of the government. We will be there to make sure that there is long-term peace in the region, and of course to make sure that there is to make sure that the Jewish community and the Muslim community and all communities across the country are well secured and can live peacefully here as well at home.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
Canadians are watching, and they're going to see how this government votes. La violence qu'on voit en Palestine.
The violence that we're seeing in Palestine and Gaza cannot continue. Civilians are being killed for crimes they did not commit. Our motion calls for actions that the Liberals can take to promote peace and justice in the region. Will the Prime Minister